Chapter 4. Chasing the Light. The icy river's currents cradled me, a solitary figure, as fear gnawed at my resolve. The looming spectre of death shadowed my every stroke, intensified by the haunting pursuit of the faceless man. I was a piece of driftwood, carried inexorably toward his dread embrace. The river seemed destined to become my grave, my remains lost to all, my tale concluded before it had truly begun. "Cowards are the only breed I despise," a voice echoed, its origin elusive amidst the rushing water. I tilted my gaze upward, perhaps seeking divine intervention from my predicament. But the sight that met my eyes stirred an entirely different sensation. The ghost of my father towered over me, his figure superimposed on the hazy sky. His features were unfamiliar, yet soothingly nostalgic. Where once rough stubble lined his cheeks, now a clean-shaven visage gazed down at me. His hair, trimmed and styled, revealed soft grey wisps that began at his temples and faded to black at the crown. A smile adorned his face, an expression I vaguely associated with the happier times before my mother's death. He exuded a sense of regality, strength, and wisdom I hardly knew. The anticipation of his next words swelled within me. His wisdom, maybe even salvation, was just a breath away. "Victory is always within reach for those who refuse to surrender," he began, his voice strong against the river's roar. "Never accept defeat because the odds seem insurmountable. Never expect someone else to fight your battles. Fight as long as your heart beats, as long as hope glimmers within you. Outlast those who conspire against you. Survive. If not, die on your feet, not your back. Don't be remembered as a coward. Now, rise, wipe the blood from your face, and fight." His words hung in the air for a moment, a ghostly echo before they faded with his image into the swirling mists. This was no mystical revelation. It was a buried memory, disinterred. A remembrance of the day when a group of boys tried to rob me, and my father tried to soothe my hurt with these words. But his comfort was barbed, poking fun at my wounds, warning that my life at the academy wouldn't last a day if I didn't learn to fight. "You were wrong," I hollered, the force of the river carrying my words, my grief laid bare. "And you were wrong then too. I went back to those boys, father, and I pummeled them, made them taste their own blood. Pain begets pain, you taught me that, but the aftermath revealed another lesson. Maybe kindness is what this world needs. Maybe they needed those coins more than I did. Did you ever think about that? Maybe I should have just surrendered instead of shedding blood and pressing a curse upon my soul. But since you're in the mood for dishing out advice, father," I cried out, my words a bittersweet jest to the deafening rush of the river. "How do I tackle this challenge? The raft's long gone, and the waterfall, I'll never survive it." Yet I knew my voice would be met with silence. My father was always the silent type, usually too drunk and unable to string enough words together to make a sentence. So I disregarded him. I brushed my hair back, surveyed the relentless river, and steeled myself for the fight. I began to swim, the water's icy sting forgotten in my desperation to evade the ghost of my father. With every thrash and kick, every gulp of air, I found a fragment of peace. Time dissolved into a meaningless void as my heartbeats blended into the rhythm of my strokes. All that mattered was survival, evading the jagged rocks and treacherous whirlpools, staying afloat in the unyielding river and outrunning the past. The river's violent fervor eventually yielded to an unsettling calm. This tranquility was the water's ominous herald, signaling the imminent descent down the dreaded waterfall. The water seemed to mirror the human instinct, decelerating, calculating its path, its survival strategy, and whispering prayers for the rocks to clear its way. As my gaze trailed the placid water, the towering precipice came into view. The roar of the water plummeting over the cliffside reverberated in my ears, its echoes disappearing into the unfathomable depths beneath. I rattled off my survival mantra. Take a deep breath, leap away from the brink, go feet first, protect your head, and swim downstream the instant you resurface. My words were swallowed by the thunderous falls, but that was inconsequential. This was a drill, a mental rehearsal of the strategy that would be my lifeline. "I will survive," I bellowed, my determination echoing as I swam toward the waterfall's center. Fortune was on my side as I managed to plant my feet beneath me, catapulting myself several feet away from the precipice. The drop was terrifying, far higher, far deadlier than Master Ulfric had described. As my heart plummeted with my fall, regret gnawed at me. I braced for a fatal collision with the jagged rocks below. My only recourse was a futile prayer during my airborne descent. My entry into the water was explosive, the impact knocking the breath out of me. As I descended deeper, the deafening cascade of water above diminished to a distant murmur. Surrounded by the eerie silence at the bottom, I knew I couldn't linger. I propelled myself off the rocky riverbed, clawing my way back to the surface. As I broke the surface and gulped in air, an unexpected hand seized my shirt, dragging me forward. Bewildered, I blinked the water from my eyes to see Ava treading water before me. Was she real? Or was she just another illusion conjured by my beleaguered mind? But then she spoke, her familiar voice confirming her presence. "What are you doing here?" Confusion laced her words. "Ava!" I stuttered, my incredulity overwhelming. How did you get here?" "Thought I'd go for a leisurely swim," she retorted with a grin, pushing her wet blonde hair away from her face. "No, you nitwit. We crashed moments ago. I'm searching for survivors. I didn't expect to find you here, but will you help me look for the others?" "Yes," I managed, struggling against the current's pull. Relief washed over me at the realization that she was indeed real. Together, we began our search, finding Turstan, Illywin, and Dom soon after. Illywin's slender form was visibly straining against the river's strength, and concern twisted my stomach. "Seen anyone else?" I hollered over the roar of the waterfall. "No," Illywin replied, her voice muffled by a fit of coughing. "Let's find the raft. Follow me." Without hesitation, I swam away from the falls, my newfound companions trailing in my wake. The mist gradually receded as we ventured further downstream, revealing our raft stranded on the riverbank. Remarkably, it was still intact. Even better, a few people were perched on it. "Leofwig!" My heart soared at the sight of him, relief washing over me. His eyes squinted for a moment before his face broke into a smile of recognition. "Beornwulf! You made it!" Leofwig's excitement was infectious as he extended his hand to help us out of the water. Emerging from the river last, the wind's icy bite made me shudder. "Is everyone here?" A hasty count confirmed all 9 were safe. Everyone survived. All thanks to you, Beornwulf, and your raft. Turstan offered a grin and extended his hand, which I grasped firmly, acknowledging our shared relief and triumph. "Spotted any other rafts?" My gaze locked onto Turstan, probing for reassurance. Turstan, shaking his head, projected an aura of subtle unease. "Caught sight of one, possibly from our class," he confessed. "Though no rope bound to wood, no survivors flailing in the water. Baedric here theorizes it's an aged relic, perhaps from a preceding class. Regardless, I earnestly hope they've managed to survive." A shiver of empathetic fear snaked down my spine. Drowning was a cruel fate, one I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. "Let's hope so," I said, casting the briny water from my hair and scrubbing at my ears, seeking the comforting sensation of dryness. "We've got a race to win. Leofwig, lend me a hand, will you? Let's get this raft off the sandbar and back in the river's good graces." A note of defeat crept into Marek's voice as he cradled the back of his neck, the very picture of anxiety. "We've lost our paddle," he stated, the weight of his words sinking into the silence. "Never mind that, I'll figure something out," I said, diving back into the water and scrambling up the riverbank, spotting a sturdy stick. I'd done this with my sister before. It wouldn't steer us like a paddle, but it would give us some semblance of control. Trudging back to the raft, I lobbed the stick onto it, meeting the baffled expressions of my companions. "This isn't perfect, but it'll keep us from smashing into rocks. It's our best bet for the moment." My explanation was met with nods, no one daring to challenge the viability of my plan. Patting Leofwig's shoulder, who was wading in the water alongside me, we began the struggle of extricating the raft from the stubborn sandbar. With his side freed, he aided me, and soon enough, the raft was drifting downstream. Taking a running start, Leofwig and I flung ourselves onto the departing raft. Sprawled on the raft, Sucking in lungfuls of air, Leofwig shot me a gleeful grin. "I wasn't about to get left behind like you did last time," he joked. His laughter was infectious, and I found myself joining in. The next hours passed in serene tranquility as our makeshift raft carried us downstream. Our trusty stick saved us from a few ill-placed rocks, but for the most part, the journey offered us a welcome reprieve from the hectic past few days. We reached the river fork in 3 hours, where Master Ulfric and his raven soldiers were poised to assist us. Their answer to my hopeful query was more than I could have asked for. We were the first group to arrive. Their congratulations warmed my heart, and the promise of a reward at the hilltop filled us with a sense of anticipation and accomplishment. As we ascended that hill, I felt a sense of camaraderie bloom within me. I wasn't just part of a team. I had made friends, a thought that brought me an indescribable sense of joy. The fire roared with a captivating glow, sending comforting warmth in waves that danced under the obsidian cloak of the sky. Embers took flight on the night air, swirling and twirling like tiny shooting stars, while laughter and joyous chatter echoed throughout the valley. I wore a smile on my face, a rarity at the academy, and I savoured it, hoping it wouldn't be the last. Yet I was keenly aware of how little control I held over my own life. Fate seemed to be the puppeteer, orchestrating my end. Whether the waters ebbed or flowed, whether I lived or died, destiny had its grip tight around me. It was destiny that had thrown together 10 strangers, moulding us into a family on the battlefield of our shared triumph. Tied together by the bond of shared experience, my newfound family had graciously forgiven my past errors. I was taken aback by the communal jubilation when the river absolved me of my shame. As I surveyed the animated faces around the campfire, a sense of familial warmth washed over me. Everyone seemed genuinely content, filled with anticipation of whatever celebration or reward the ravens had in store. Dom was the first to break the group's silence. Predictable, I thought. Her boldness was something I had grown to admire, and I had sensed from the start that her outspoken nature would inevitably propel her into a leadership role. "So, any guesses on what the reward will be?" Dom's query floated on the still night air. "I wager a grand feast," Balwin chimed in, eyes sparkling with excitement. "Better yet, free beer," Bedrick exclaimed, barely containing his enthusiasm. "Why assume the reward is of earthly measure?" Eva mused, her tone thoughtful. "Perhaps Master Ulfric intends to reward us in traditional Raven style, an unostentatious honour that does not single us out from the rest. Could that not be rewarding enough?" "Ever the buzzkill, aren't you, Ava?" Thurston teased, slapping her leg affectionately, betraying a hint of unrequited feelings. Eva's eyes narrowed at the contact, her lips parting for a sharp retort when Master Ulfric chose that moment to join our fireside huddle. Master Ulfric, silent and observant, seemed to wait for our response. As the silence stretched on, he chose to break it, perhaps unsettled by the numerous eyes scrutinizing him. "Any of you in need of a healer?" His query was met with puzzled expressions. "You're all so hushed, almost as if you've had a knock to the head." He laughed heartily at his own joke. "Don't withhold conversation on my account. You've earned your rest. Enjoy your victory. Wait, is this our reward?" Ilwyn's confusion was evident in her voice. "Did you expect a treasure chest and a grand ball?" Master Ulfric's stern gaze fell on Ilwyn before he elaborated. "Indeed, this is your reward. A hearty meal, restful sleep, and a single serving of mead for those who desire it. But remember, the real reward is the lack of punishment. Your competitors must haul their rafts back to the academy. The team that came last will also have to lug your raft as additional punishment. It will take them weeks, and while they are burdened, you'll be honing your skills with the sword. This edge might save you on the battlefield. God knows you could use the training." A collective sigh echoed around the fire at Master Ulfric's revelation, disappointment registering on some faces, yet no one voiced a protest. We all knew better. Sixteen's question shattered the jovial atmosphere. Did we lose anyone on the river? His words were simple, but they hit us like a shockwave, pulling us back from our self-satisfied bubble. The chilling reality sank in. Some were still battling for survival on the treacherous waters. Master Ulfric appreciated the question. A commendable query. After the dust of battle settles, it's crucial we remember to honor our own. His eyes were lost in the fire for a moment before he continued. We lost 15 in total, 12 boys, 3 girls, the most significant loss on the river in many years. The wild boars weren't the only cause, but any death in service to the ravens is a day of mourning. They paid the ultimate price so you could learn to honor their memory through your actions. His words hung heavy in the air, but I couldn't help but question the sincerity behind them, remembering how indifferent he seemed when a boy was beaten to death on the training grounds. My thoughts were pulled back as Master Ulfric mentioned deaths beyond the wild boars. "Excuse me, Master Ulfric," I sought his attention. "You mentioned that not all casualties were from the wild boars. Were there others on the river with us?" Master Ulfric nodded approvingly. "You're attentive, young Beornwulf. Yes, the stags were out on the river today as well. I believe a small group even attempted to seize your raft. Your strategic retreat, albeit tactically flawed, was timed well." Recognition dawned on Tursten's face. "I knew those boys were unfamiliar. We should have killed them all, Beornwulf." Master Ulfric was quick to disagree. "This wasn't a fight to the death, Tursten. Had you stayed, you risked losing the raft, the ultimate prize. Without it, you'd be drowning." Beornwulf made the right call. "I observed your group from afar and took note of each of your actions. Some of you proved yourselves, while others, like recruit Myrick, have a long way to go." Eva's curt agreement was followed by a more pressing query. "When is supper?" She rubbed her stomach, anticipation in her eyes. The aroma of roasting boar wafting in the air was making my own stomach grumble, considering I hadn't eaten since my arrival at the academy. That's an even better question. "We all need to eat." Master Ulfric rose to his feet. "The ravens will serve you tonight as is tradition. I should get back to preparing your meal." As he turned to leave, I cleared my throat to gain his attention. He turned to look at me. "Yes, Beornwulf." "What was our time? Did we come close to the record?" I asked. "You were fast, but not fast enough. Maybe next time, young Beornwulf." With a smile, Master Ulfric walked off. Dom, who was in the process of removing her boots, commented, "I bet they don't even keep time." Her declaration and the removal of her boots drew puzzled glances. "What?" He said to relax and be served. For all we know, we could be dead in a week. Might as well enjoy good food and mead while we can. Her statement was met with laughter, but soon everyone was following suit, peeling off water-soaked clothes to dry by the fire. I stripped down to my underclothes, hanging my attire by the fire. I noticed Leofwig sitting fully clothed, his face a vibrant red. "What's wrong, brother?" He crossed his arms, rocking back and forth on the log. "I don't want to be in these clothes any more than you do, but I can't bear to take off my shirt. I'm too fat." His words reeked of anxiety. "You're not fat, you're strong," I reassured him. Then catching Eva's eye, I telepathically conveyed, "Eva, Leofwig here is self-conscious about taking off his shirt in your presence." Eva smiled at Leofwig. "Why so shy, Leofwig? If I could cuddle up with any man, I'd choose one with strong arms like yours." Leofwig beamed, quickly pulling off his shirt. "Really?" "Absolutely. No one wants a skinny boy like Beornwulf here," she quipped before walking off. I noticed Leofwig's gaze linger on Ava's retreating figure, appreciating her attire of a low-cropped shirt and white underwear. "Told you!" I slapped Leofwig's arm, pulling him out of his reverie. It wasn't that I thought Ava would mind, but Turstan's obvious crush on her could lead to complications, and we were not permitted to engage in relationships at the academy. As I reflected on this, I became aware of Master Ulfric standing behind me. I turned to face him. "Yes, Master. Come, we need to converse," Master Ulfric summoned, his voice echoing through the shadows. He might as well have been a marble statue for all the emotion he betrayed. With a knot tightening in my stomach, I followed him, leaving behind the comforting glow of the campfire and the low murmuring of my comrades. His tent sat in solitude, cut off from the rest of the camp. Inside, the only sound was the rustling of the tent canvas and the pounding of my heart in my ears. Master Ulfric broke the silence. Beornwulf, we must discuss today's incident. You are duty-bound to answer me truthfully, and any deviation will be met with severe consequences. Understand? I nodded, feeling a cold shiver run down my spine. Yes, Master. I'll do my best. I was hesitant, though. The truth could cast a dark shadow over the night's merriment. And how much could he know anyway? Why were the stags able to ambush you? Did you not set sentries? His question pierced me like a spear. The one inquiry I had hoped to dodge. The truth tasted bitter on my tongue, but I knew he deserved nothing less. We had guards, Master, but their inexperience got the better of them. I suspect they were drawn away from their post, probably by some distraction. A rock struck my head, so perhaps they had investigated its source. I gave Merek and Balwin the benefit of the doubt, hoping my honesty would be enough for Master Ulfric. But is that what you genuinely believe, or merely wish to believe? I believe it, Master. Did you observe anything else that seemed off? I blinked, remembering Myrek holding something smouldering. I knew the rules against unsanctioned smoking and the harsh consequences. But could I really expose Myrek? I don't recall anything, Master. He paused, and I could see in his gaze that he knew I was holding something back. Why didn't you board your raft at first? Was there an obstacle? Not exactly, Master. More of an accident. As Myrek was climbing onto the raft, he accidentally struck me with his boot. I don't believe it was intentional. He was panicking. He can't swim. His brows furrowed in deep thought. Or perhaps he was hiding something, fearful you'd expose him. I don't know, Master. His implication left a bitter taste in my mouth. Myrek was no saint, but I couldn't believe he'd resort to murder over a minor rule violation. Your loyalties are questionable, Beornwulf, he declared, reaching for a jug of golden liquid. Return to your comrades, enjoy the evening's festivities, and take this along. It's the mead I promised earlier. Everyone gets a cup and no more. If anyone declines, pour it into the earth. Tonight, you're answerable for this jug, your victory on the raft, and your words. Remember, every action and inaction has a consequence. The walk back to the camp was a blur, my mind a storm of self-doubt. He knows nothing. He's just fishing for information. But does he know? He must know. I berated myself, struggling to comprehend why I'd lied. Merek wasn't my responsibility, and he didn't belong here. The cheerful laughter of my comrades pulled me back to reality. Turstan stood, a wide grin on his face. Behold, our river master returns with spoils. Despite the laughter, I knew I had to lay down the rules before I started serving. Listen up. Everyone gets a single cup of mead by Master Ulfric's orders. Their excitement buzzed around me as I uncorked the jug, pouring a steady stream of golden liquid into each eager cup. Queue up! I don't want to spill any! Their laughter died down as they organized themselves. As I filled the final cup, Myrek reappeared, his cup held out. Sorry, Myrek, just one serving each. I spilled mine. There's plenty left. Don't hog it all. Myrek pushed his cup towards me, his demand echoing in the quiet night. The queue was eerily empty as I inverted the jug, watching the mead cascade onto the barren ground below. Regretfully, the mead seems to have found a different destination, Myrek. I half-heartedly apologized. His response was a robust goblet hurled to my chest, followed by a crass moniker. He stormed off without engaging in the usual brawl. Maybe he was weary or just being cautious after the day's upheaval. Either way, I was grateful for the peaceful resolution. Dom sauntered towards me, her underclothes outlining her frame tastefully. I couldn't help but stare, taking in her long brown hair, radiant green eyes, sun-kissed skin, and sculpted figure. Suddenly, I noticed her allure, recalling the fantasies of my youth. I quickly redirected my gaze, attempting to avoid causing any discomfort. Wasn't it to your liking, Beornwulf? Dom's voice snapped me back to reality. I stammered a clumsy reply, the empty jug now a stark reminder of my hasty decision. An amused grin tugged at her lips. Well, that's a shame. Although, you're welcome to share mine. I barely touch it anyway. Let's find a spot to sit, shall we? She strode off confidently, leaving me to scramble after her. As we settled shoulder to shoulder by the fire, I wrestled with a whirlwind of anxiety. Intimacy with a semi-clad woman was a foreign experience, and I was terrified of blundering my words. In an attempt to break the ice, I voiced the first coherent thought that sprang to mind. "Thank you for sharing your mead, Dom." She responded by passing me her goblet, prompting me to question if my words had spurred her into action. "You absolute idiot," I silently berated myself, eager to divert the conversation. "So, where do you hail from, Dom?" A nostalgic smile softened her features. "From a small, forgotten town called Dublina. We're mostly considered humble fishermen reaping the ocean's bounty. But there's more to us than that. My father was a blacksmith for the Ravens, and my brother was a formidable warrior, but we lost him during the tail end of the 100 Years' War. His absence is a daily sting." "Did he serve in the army?" I asked. "No, just a victim of a lion's raid. They slaughtered many of our kin. We survived by the skin of our teeth, thanks to the Ravens' intervention. But by the time they arrived, the noose was around my neck, and my father was helplessly witnessing the lifeless bodies of my mother and brother swinging from the gallows. If it weren't for the Ravens, I'd have joined them. I've dedicated myself to this cause, hoping to avenge their deaths. If I fall, someone more capable can pick up the mantle, igniting the retribution I've kindled." Her words left me speechless. The shared pain of losing loved ones resonated within me, taking me back to my mother's death. "You will have your revenge, Dom, and we'll see it through together." The conviction in my voice surprised even me. "Promise me you'll remember their names. If you're the last one standing at our graduation, avenge them for me. My brother, Edwin, and my mother, Oslafa, were citizens of this kingdom too, their lives snuffed out in the greed for our land." "I will remember," I affirmed. We spent the remainder of the evening sharing stories, the mead gradually dwindling, the fire casting dancing shadows. Master Ulfric served up a feast, the succulent pig undoubtedly the best I've ever had. As the night ended, we found comfort near the warm hearth, and I found my thoughts entangled with Dom. Not solely for her enchanting beauty, but for her warmth and her fierce passion for life. As I watched her laugh, head tilted back, eyes shimmering with mischief, I felt something stir in me that went deeper than admiration. It was a pull, quiet yet undeniable, as though the fire between us mirrored the one flickering in the hearth. She noticed my gaze and held it, just for a moment, and in that instant the chatter around us seemed to fade. Dom was not like the others. There was strength in her softness, a wildness behind her composed exterior. When she finally excused herself for the night, I remained by the fire, staring into the embers as if they held answers I hadn't yet learned to ask. Around me, the room began to empty, laughter giving way to silence, and sleep called to my aching limbs. Yet my thoughts wandered long after my body found rest, haunted by the sound of her voice, the curve of her smile, and a dangerous hope that perhaps, after all this blood and training and fear, there was something more waiting for me than survival, something worth fighting for.